Humanity's rise to prominence in the galaxy began long before the invitation to join the Federation. After centuries of struggle, war, and division on Earth, humanity had finally learned the harsh lessons of its own history. The devastating wars of the past had left scars, but they also birthed the unification of nations. The United Earth Federation, born from the ashes of centuries of conflict, spearheaded a new age of cooperation and peace. The breakthrough came with the discovery of faster-than-light travel. Suddenly, humanity was not confined to its home planet, but could explore the stars, seeking new worlds, new resources, and perhaps new allies. The early days of exploration were marked by awe and wonder, with human colonies springing up on distant planets and moons, each one a symbol of hope for a better future. But with this new era came new challenges. The galaxy was not a peaceful place. Humanity was not alone. Alien species, some far more advanced than Earth, had already been exploring and claiming territories in the stars for millennia. It was inevitable that humanity would eventually encounter them. At first, the contact was cautious. The first alien species, peaceful, highly intelligent beings, viewed humanity with curiosity, but also skepticism. How would these young, eager humans fit into the complex web of galactic politics? Humanity's initial attempts at diplomacy were rocky, but they were earnest. Humans had always been adaptable, and they quickly learned the nuances of interstellar negotiations. It was a human diplomat, a woman named Ilara Voss, who first gained the trust of the Federation's leaders. Ilara's sharp mind and unrelenting optimism were key to forging strong ties between Earth and several prominent galactic races. Through her efforts, humanity's place in the Federation was solidified. The Federation of Species was an alliance of diverse alien races, some of which had been in existence for millennia. They were powerful, but fragmented, constantly dealing with internal rivalries and territorial disputes. They were wary of humanity's rapid technological advancements and boundless ambition. However, they could not deny that humanity brought something fresh to the table: innovative ideas, cutting-edge technology, and a determination that few other species possessed. When the Federation offered humanity a place among them, it was seen as a monumental moment, one that symbolized both humanity's rapid rise and the hope that they could bring peace to a fractured galaxy. The alliance was founded on mutual cooperation. In exchange for protection and resources, humanity would share its knowledge and work alongside the other races to strengthen the Federation. The first few years were filled with shared prosperity. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers to advance medical technologies, while human engineers helped improve the Federation's aging infrastructure. Trade routes were opened, and humanity's ships, with their advanced speed and capabilities, became the lifeblood of the Federation's transport network. Humanity had become indispensable. They were the Federation's beating heart, and in return, they were granted a prominent position in galactic politics. But beneath the surface, there was a growing tension. While many species respected humanity's ingenuity and strength, there were others who saw their rapid rise as a threat. A quiet unease began to spread, whispered conversations in dimly lit rooms, questioning if the humans were too ambitious, too quick to seize power. These doubts would soon grow into something far darker, something that would shake the galaxy to its core. For now, humanity basked in the glow of success, unaware that the very trust they had earned would soon be turned against them. As the years passed, humanity's influence within the Federation only continued to grow. Their fleet of ships, sleek and agile, became the standard of excellence, admired and feared by all. Human engineers revolutionized space travel, developing faster-than-light propulsion systems that made the Federation's routes more efficient, and their military strategies quickly became the envy of their allies and enemies alike. Humanity's reputation as innovators extended beyond the battlefield and into every aspect of Federation life. Earth's advanced medical technologies eradicated diseases that had plagued entire species for centuries. The human approach to diplomacy, focused on directness, transparency, and most importantly, compromise, helped resolve long-standing conflicts between alien factions that had been at war for millennia. The neutral and war-torn planets of the galaxy found stability for the first time in generations under humanity's guidance. Despite the goodwill humanity had cultivated, there were some races who grew increasingly uneasy with this rapid success. The largest and most influential of these factions was the Zygrans, a technologically advanced species known for their fearsome warriors and tightly held traditions. They had ruled over vast stretches of the galaxy for centuries, maintaining their power through a mixture of diplomacy, military might, and sheer will. To them, humanity's rise was both a challenge and a warning. The Zygrans, whose empire spanned hundreds of star systems, had always held the upper hand in the Federation. Now they were seeing a young, ambitious species threatening to outpace them in ways they could never have predicted. The Zygrans' leader, High Commander Arcanus, watched humanity's rise with growing suspicion. Arcanus, a seasoned and calculating strategist, was not one to dismiss threats lightly. He saw humanity's advancements not as the natural progression of a species, but as an overture for power, a challenge to Zygran dominance. There was no denying that humanity's ships were becoming faster, their weapons more devastating, and their strategies more refined. But most concerning to Arcanus was humanity's ability to inspire loyalty and unity among the diverse factions of the Federation. They were uniting disparate groups, alien species who had never been able to work together before. That was something the Zygrans could not afford. In contrast, the human leaders, especially Ilara Voss, continued to push the Federation toward peace and prosperity. They worked tirelessly to maintain the delicate balance of power, knowing full well that if the various factions were to fracture, chaos would reign. Voss, who had once been the face of humanity's diplomacy, now found herself at the heart of an expanding web of suspicion. She and her colleagues were increasingly being invited to closed-door meetings, summoned by Federation leaders to discuss concerns about humanity's growing influence. Despite the whispers behind closed doors, humanity pressed forward. They were gaining allies, especially among smaller, neutral species who had long been ignored by the major powers of the galaxy. These new alliances brought fresh resources and untapped potential, further increasing humanity's standing in the Federation. They were no longer just a rising star. They were quickly becoming the guiding force in the galaxy's future. But even as they expanded their reach and their influence, cracks began to form in the Federation's unity. The Zygrans, sensing that their position of power was at risk, began to make their moves. The first signs were subtle: delays in trade routes, minor diplomatic snubs, and increased military patrols in regions that had once been neutral. Humanity's growth, once seen as a boon, was now starting to feel like a threat. But it wasn't just the Zygrans who were concerned. Other alien races, less outspoken but no less wary, began to distance themselves from humanity. The Federation, which had been so unified under humanity's leadership, was beginning to show signs of strain. The once strong coalition of races now seemed more like a collection of factions waiting for the slightest provocation to break apart. The galaxy, which had once seemed full of promise, was beginning to feel like a powder keg, with humanity standing at the center, unaware that a dangerous spark was about to set it all aflame. As the tension grew, the seeds of humanity's eventual betrayal were already being planted, seeds that would soon grow into a storm that no one could predict. Behind the dazzling successes and the glowing promises of a unified galaxy, something far darker was unfolding. Humanity, with all its achievements, had become the focal point of growing resentment. The whispers began quietly at first, among the Zygrans, the Xanthari, and a few other influential factions of the Federation. They spoke of human ambition, of humanity's relentless push to take center stage in the galaxy, and of the uneasy feeling that their rise was only the beginning of something far more dangerous. It was subtle at first: offhand comments in the corridors of power, hushed conversations during diplomatic summits. But over time, These whispers began to evolve into something more coordinated. A silent council of alien leaders formed in the shadows, exchanging their concerns about humanity's growing dominance. The Federation was supposed to be a partnership of equals, but humanity's actions seemed to suggest they had an agenda of their own, one that could eventually outgrow the very foundations of the Alliance. High Commander Arcanus of the Zygrans, a master tactician, and a longtime leader of the Federation's military operations, was among the first to voice his concerns openly. He had always maintained a strong presence in the Federation's decision-making circles, and his status lent weight to his words. In private, Arcanus would speak to his most trusted generals, hinting at the threat humanity posed. Their technological advancements, he argued, were too fast, their ships too powerful. Arcanus would often talk about the ease with which humanity could rally the galaxy's smaller factions to its side, promising them protection and prosperity in exchange for loyalty. The Zygrans, he feared, could soon find themselves in the position of a bystander, watching as humanity took control of the Federation's future. But it wasn't just the Zygrans who were concerned. The Xanthari, a race of telepathic beings with a strong focus on knowledge and intellect, had always believed in maintaining the status quo. Their society valued the preservation of ancient traditions and, above all, their autonomy. They had always regarded humanity as a bit too unpredictable, too impulsive for their liking. The Xanthari leadership convened secretly, exchanging data, monitoring human activities in the Federation, and pondering how best to contain the growing threat they perceived. They began to work behind the scenes, gathering intelligence on humanity's movements and activities, while publicly maintaining their alliance with the Federation. Other factions, including the Grethar, a species of towering muscular warriors, and the Druxians, an insectoid race with highly advanced biological warfare capabilities, also began to view humanity's rise with suspicion. These groups, though different in their political leanings, shared a mutual concern: humanity's unity, its ability to adapt and lead, and its insatiable hunger for progress made them unpredictable. To the alien factions, this was a dangerous combination. They feared that humanity, if left unchecked, would transform the Federation into something else entirely: a human-led empire, with alien species relegated to subordinate roles or worse, entirely displaced. Meanwhile, humanity's leaders, particularly Ilara Voss, remained focused on maintaining the fragile peace. Ilara worked tirelessly to ensure that the Federation remained united, constantly forging new alliances and soothing the concerns of their increasingly uneasy partners. She pushed for transparent communication between the Federation members and emphasized that humanity sought only peace and prosperity for all. She believed that their progress was a gift to the galaxy, a way to lift everyone up. Humanity's voice, she thought, was a voice for unity, not division. But Ilara could sense the shifting tides. The diplomatic missions were becoming more difficult. The once eager allies now seemed distant, unwilling to engage with humanity as they once had. The faintest hint of hostility lingered in the air. It wasn't just the quiet whispers anymore. There were subtle actions, too. Sabotage in supply chains, military maneuvers that felt like provocations, and a strange coldness in the eyes of alien leaders when they spoke to her. The cracks in the Federation were widening, and humanity was unknowingly at the center of it all. The unity they had worked so hard to build was on the verge of unraveling, but they had no idea how deep the betrayal was already taking root. The seeds of distrust, planted by whispers in darkened rooms, were about to bear bitter fruit, leading to a conflict that would shake the galaxy to its very core. As the tensions continued to rise, a new decision was made in the shadows, a decision that would alter the course of galactic history. The galaxy had barely begun to feel the tremors of suspicion when the full force of the betrayal was unleashed. Humanity had been blindsided. One moment, they were basking in their place of honor within the Federation, and the next, they were branded as the galaxy's greatest threat. The first move came in the form of a surprise attack. It wasn't the open, full-scale war that might have been expected, but something far more insidious. Human colonies in several star systems were struck without warning. Fleets once thought loyal to humanity turned their guns on defenseless civilian outposts. Their former allies, the Zygrans and Centauri among others, had turned their backs in the shadows. The Federation's public stance was one of condemnation. Humanity had allegedly conspired to seize control of the Federation and was now under investigation. But this accusation was nothing more than a veil, a cover-up for something far darker. Ilara Voss, humanity's greatest diplomat, was among the first to realize the gravity of what was unfolding. As reports of the attacks came in, the calm, collected leader of the United Earth Federation couldn't believe her ears. Colonies she had worked so hard to protect were under siege. Communication lines went dead, and entire fleets vanished into the void, presumed destroyed or commandeered by the traitors. The betrayal was swift and brutal. The first coordinated strike came from the Zygrans, who had positioned their forces in key sectors of the galaxy, ensuring that humanity's defenses would be overwhelmed. Then came the Centauri, who turned their considerable intelligence-gathering capabilities against humanity, using their deep knowledge of human military strategies to exploit weaknesses in the Federation's defenses. The Grethar and the Druxians followed suit, launching surprise attacks on human space stations, wiping out key logistical hubs, and leaving the human fleet scrambling to regroup. The Federation leadership, once united under the banner of progress, now fragmented into warring factions. Some races, previously allies of humanity, had quietly pledged their loyalty to the attackers, while others, though still hesitant, kept their distance. The Federation itself was crumbling under the weight of this unexpected coup. Humanity's position had shifted from revered ally to public enemy in a matter of days, and the Federation's former protectors were now its persecutors. Ilara, still reeling from the betrayal, knew that humanity had to act quickly if they were to survive. With the Federation's military forces splintering and the galaxy descending into chaos, she made the difficult decision to go on the offensive. There was no longer time for diplomacy. Humanity would have to fight for its survival. As humanity's military leaders scrambled to organize a defense, they were met with an astonishing revelation. Many of their fleet's finest officers had been compromised. Long-serving generals and admirals who had once sworn loyalty to humanity's cause were now working against them. It seemed the betrayal was far more widespread than anyone had imagined. The once proud fleet of humanity, which had been the backbone of their position in the Federation, was now in disarray. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, humanity refused to back down. The first counterattack came from Earth itself, a desperate but carefully calculated strike against the Zygrans' advanced fleets in the Outer Rim. The human forces, though outnumbered, had one thing their enemies had underestimated: an unbreakable will. With the odds stacked against them, they'd fought with a ferocity that shocked their attackers. Humans had faced extinction before, and they were not about to be crushed by a galaxy that had turned its back on them. Ilara Voss, though deeply shaken, knew that now more than ever, humanity had to be united. She sent a broadcast to every surviving colony and fleet, urging them to fight on. The message was simple but powerful. We will not bow. We will not break. This galaxy is our home, and we will fight for it until our last breath. The words resonated across the stars. Human forces began to regroup, rallying under the banner of their unity and strength. Fleets that had scattered in confusion began to form new strategies, using their advanced technology and tactical brilliance to strike back at their enemies. It was a desperate struggle, but humanity's ability to adapt and fight as one was beginning to turn the tide. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once before, and now, as the first victories against the betrayers began to pile up, it was becoming clear. The galaxy's betrayal of humanity had sparked a force far more powerful than they had anticipated, one that could not be easily extinguished. But despite the victories, humanity knew the worst was yet to come. This was only the beginning. The true extent of the betrayal was still unknown, and the galaxy was about to learn that underestimating humanity was a mistake that would soon cost them everything. As humanity's forces regrouped and began to strike back, the galaxy's landscape shifted once again. No longer the peaceful and respected members of the Federation, humans were now a cornered species, fighting for survival against a web of betrayals and overwhelming odds. The vast reaches of the galaxy, once their allies and collaborators, had turned against them. But what humanity had that their enemies lacked was something far more potent: resolve. The Federation's betrayal, though devastating, sparked something in humanity. Their back was against the wall, but they refused to bend. Humanity's military might, developed over years of peaceful advancement, now became a tool of resistance. Each victory against the betraying factions pushed the enemies back and rekindled the hope of millions. However, the enemy was relentless. With fleets scattered across multiple systems, each alien faction fought with a fury born of desperation, trying to wipe humanity from the galaxy before they could turn the tide completely. The first major confrontation came when humanity's fleets, now reinforced with loyalist factions and former allies who had defected after witnessing the Federation's treachery, confronted the Zygrans in the Volantis expanse. The Zygrans had long been the militaristic powerhouse of the Federation, and their military tactics were unmatched. But humanity had learned their way of warfare. Their adaptability and sheer unpredictability were now their greatest strengths. High Commander Arcanus, once confident in his superior military prowess, was stunned when human forces launched a series of devastating guerrilla tactics in the expanse. The Zygrans, used to conventional combat, found themselves unable to track the scattered and mobile human fleets, which used stealth technology and advanced evasive tactics that even Arcanus had underestimated. Humanity's ability to turn a disadvantage into a weapon, to think outside the box, left the Zygrans reeling. The battle in the Volantis expanse raged for days. Humanity's fleet, though smaller, used the surrounding nebulas and asteroid fields to their advantage, striking with pinpoint precision and retreating before the Zygrans could counterattack. The Zygrans, frustrated by the constant guerrilla warfare, were forced to pull back, unable to finish the fight despite their superior numbers. It was a massive victory for humanity, one that gave them the momentum they desperately needed. As the news spread of humanity's triumph, a wave of defections began to ripple through the Federation. Smaller factions, once hesitant to ally with humanity for fear of the larger powers, began to see humanity as the only force capable of challenging the betrayal sweeping across the galaxy. The Druxians, previously neutral and distant, pledged their support to humanity, offering their biological warfare expertise to bolster the human military. The Grethard, too, whose warrior instincts admired humanity's resilience, began providing vital reinforcements to human forces. Ilara Voss, watching these developments unfold, knew this was humanity's chance to turn the tide. But the road ahead would not be easy. The betrayal of the Federation had fractured the galaxy into hostile factions, and though humanity was gaining allies, they were still outnumbered and outgunned by the combined forces of their enemies. Yet there was no going back. Humanity had faced extinction before, and they had emerged victorious. Now they would have to do so again. They couldn't afford hesitation. They couldn't afford to wait for diplomacy or for the Federation to come to its senses. The galaxy had turned against them, and it was now humanity's fight alone. Ilara called for a meeting of the newly formed Human Alliance, a gathering of the generals, strategists, and diplomats who would steer humanity through the coming storm. The Federation had once been a symbol of hope, but now it was a fractured shell, and humanity would have to rise above the ashes to rebuild it in their image. The plan was set in motion, a daring campaign to strike at the heart of the Federation's power, to show the galaxy that humanity was not just a fleeting power, but a force that could no longer be ignored. But the galaxy was watching, and with each move humanity made, the Federation's remaining loyalists would strike back with everything they had. The war was far from over, and though humanity had won a major victory, they were about to enter the darkest chapter of their history yet. The battle for survival was only just beginning. Humanity's victory in the Volantis Expanse was a beacon of hope in an otherwise dark galaxy. The Zygrans, beaten but not broken, retreated to lick their wounds, while humanity seized the opportunity to rally allies to their cause. With the Federation in disarray, Ilara Voss led humanity with renewed vigor, forging a new alliance of species who saw the unfolding conflict for what it truly was, a battle for the future of the galaxy. The human war effort was now a unifying force, bringing together races that had once been divided by ancient grudges and ideological differences. The Druxians, with their expertise in biological warfare, pledged their support, eager to bring their advanced methods to bear against the Zygrans and their allies. The Grethar, though warriors at heart, admired humanity's tenacity and adaptability. They sent their most skilled fighters, eager to join the fight alongside humans. Smaller, neutral factions, who had long been silent in the face of Federation politics, were now speaking out, offering resources and troops to the cause. Ilara knew that this was humanity's only chance. The Federation had betrayed them, but humanity was no stranger to betrayal. Throughout history, humans had been forced to rebuild and rise again from the ashes, and they would do so once more. This time, however, they would not be alone. As the human fleet grew stronger with the influx of new allies, they began to strike with calculated precision. Their first major operation was to target the Zygrans' core systems, critical shipyards, resource hubs, and military strongholds that supported their war efforts. These strikes were not just about crippling the Zygrans' ability to fight back, but sending a clear message to the galaxy: humanity would not be cowed. The Druxians' biological warfare expertise proved invaluable, introducing devastating new tactics to the battlefield. Their modified weaponry, designed to incapacitate rather than kill, created chaos within enemy ranks, rendering entire Zygran fleets vulnerable to human strikes. The Grethar warriors, meanwhile, led the charge on the ground, storming enemy strongholds with unparalleled brutality. The human forces, coordinated and agile, complemented the brutal efficiency of their allies, striking fast and leaving nothing but smoldering ruins in their wake. As the war effort gained momentum, humanity's leaders faced a new challenge: convincing the remaining neutral factions to take a stand. The Zygrans, Centauri, and Drakari had made it clear that they were willing to stop at nothing to ensure humanity's fall. But humanity, united with their new allies, began to appeal to those who had previously remained on the fence, showing them the harsh reality of the betrayal. Ilara's diplomatic skills, honed over years of navigating the complexities of Federation politics, became invaluable once more. She met with the leaders of the neutral factions, urging them to choose a side. Time and again, she faced resistance, but her passion and unwavering belief in humanity's cause gradually won over even the most hesitant. Some, like the Varelli, a peaceful, oceanic species, joined the fight, offering their technological prowess to bolster humanity's naval fleet. Others, like the Trivens, a race of highly intelligent, cybernetic beings, supplied their advanced hacking and encryption technologies, which turned the tide of many battles. The war was no longer just about survival. It had become a battle for the soul of the galaxy. Humanity's rise, once seen as a peaceful partnership, had now morphed into a crusade for justice and unity. The Federation had abandoned its ideals, and humanity, alongside its allies, was fighting to reclaim those ideals. They would not allow the betrayal to stand. They would rebuild the Federation, but it would be humanity's Federation, a new alliance built on trust, equality, and mutual respect. But the Zygrans and their allies were not done yet. As humanity's influence grew, so too did the animosity of those who feared what their ascension meant. High Commander Arcanus, enraged by humanity's audacity, began to make plans for a final, decisive strike, one that would see humanity's fledgling alliance shattered once and for all. The galaxy, it seemed, was on the verge of an all-out war that could consume everything. Ilara Voss and her allies knew that they couldn't afford to wait. The final battle for the galaxy's future was on the horizon, and humanity would have to fight with everything they had, because if they failed, there would be no turning back. The galaxy had betrayed them, but humanity's spirit was stronger than ever. It was time to show the stars what it truly meant to be human. The galaxy was on the edge of total war. Humanity's once strong position within the Federation was now a distant memory. Betrayed by their former allies, humanity had fought tooth and nail to survive, rallying new allies from the ashes of the old Federation. But the Zygrans, Centauri, and their co-conspirators were not finished yet. They had gathered their forces for one last strike, a final devastating push to crush humanity and extinguish the growing alliance before it could challenge their dominance. Ilara Voss, now leading the charge for humanity's survival, stood before the unified human fleet, an array of ships and war machines gathered from across the galaxy. The fleet was a motley collection of humanity's finest, bolstered by the might of the Druxians, Grethar, Varelli, and Trivens, species who had once been neutral, but now fought alongside humanity for their very survival. Ilara knew this battle would define everything. The fate of the galaxy rested on what was to come. Their destination was the heart of the Federation, the place where the betrayal had started, the Zygran stronghold, located in the distant star system of Alaris, where their fleet had been secretly massing. Intelligence gathered by human operatives and their new allies revealed that the Zygrans were preparing to launch a devastating offensive, one that would crush the rebellion and solidify their control over the galaxy. Humanity had no choice but to take the fight to them. The final confrontation was set to take place in the cold, dark expanse of the Alaris system, where the stars barely pierced the vast nothingness. Humanity's fleet was outnumbered, and their ships, though well-equipped and highly adaptive, were no match for the sheer size of the Zygran armée. But Ilara's confidence in her people and in their allies gave her the strength to press forward. The battle would be brutal, but humanity's resolve was their greatest weapon. They had fought through betrayal, loss, and hardship, and now they were fighting for the very future of the galaxy. As the two fleets approached each other, the cold silence of space was shattered by the deafening roar of engines and weapons charging. The Zygran flagship, Vorthmar, led the charge, a massive behemoth of metal and fire, its cannons primed for destruction. Behind it, the Zygran fleet stretched for light years, a wall of ships designed to obliterate all in their path. Humanity's fleet, though smaller, was swift and precise. Their ships darted in and out of formation, taking advantage of their advanced technology and knowledge of Zygran tactics to keep the enemy guessing. The battle raged for hours. Plasma cannons and antimatter warheads streaked across the void, lighting up the dark sky like stars being born and dying in an instant. Humanity's ships, guided by their unparalleled adaptability, used the terrain of the Alaris system to their advantage. Nebulas, asteroid fields, and gravitational anomalies all became their weapons, creating chaos within the Zygran ranks. The Zygrans, whose military strategy had always been focused on overwhelming force, were caught off guard by humanity's unpredictability. But as the battle wore on, it became clear that humanity's position was precarious. The Zygrans, though momentarily disoriented, were slowly adapting to the human tactics. The weight of their firepower was beginning to take its toll. Humanity's fleet, though they had struck with fury and precision, was losing ships at an alarming rate. Ilara's heart pounded as she watched the damage unfold. Her eyes scanned the tactical display, calculating the odds. This was humanity's moment of truth. The battle was far from won, but she couldn't afford to lose hope. Humanity had never surrendered before, and they would not start now. She activated the comms, sending a message to the fleet. "This is our time. We fight for our future, for our families, for the galaxy. Hold the line. Victory is within our reach." The rallying cry stirred the hearts of the human soldiers and their allies. The Grethar roared in unison, charging into the heart of the enemy fleet. The Druxians unleashed their deadly biological weapons, crippling entire sections of the Zygrin army. The Varelian Trivens, using their technological prowess, launched a counter-offensive against the Zygrin communications network, causing confusion and disrupting their command chain. And then, in the midst of the chaos, humanity's final weapon came into play. The human fleet's newly developed quantum warheads, designed to disable the enemy's fleet without causing massive collateral damage, were deployed. With precision and skill, they targeted the Zygrin flagship Vorthmar, disabling its main engines and crippling its weapon systems. The once mighty flagship was now a floating hulk, vulnerable to humanity's final strike. With the fall of the Vorthmar, the Zygrin fleet began to falter. Their morale shattered, they retreated, unable to withstand the combined onslaught of humanity and its allies. The battle for Alaris was won. But even as the Zygrins withdrew, Ilara knew the war was far from over. This was only the beginning of humanity's path to reclaim the galaxy from those who sought to destroy it. There were still enemies to fight, old alliances to rebuild, and a galaxy to heal. But one thing was certain: humanity had proven its strength, its resolve, and its unyielding will to survive. The final confrontation had been won, but the war for the galaxy was just beginning. The battle for Alaris was a decisive victory, but the war was far from over. Humanity had fought with everything they had, and the Zygrins, once the galactic giants, had been driven back. Yet, the true scope of the conflict was beginning to reveal itself. The Zygrins may have lost the battle, but the alliance of former Federation races that had conspired against humanity still lurked in the shadows, waiting for their chance to strike back. Ilara Voss stood at the helm of humanity's newly formed command ship. The Eclipse, a symbol of both the victories humanity had achieved and the challenges yet to come. The vastness of space stretched out before her, a canvas of endless possibilities, but also of untold dangers. The Federation as it once was gone, shattered by betrayal. The galaxy was now divided, with factions either swearing allegiance to humanity or watching cautiously from the sidelines. Trust had been broken, and it would take more than a single victory to restore what had been lost. The surviving leaders of humanity's allies stood around her in the command center. High Command Arcanus of the Zygrins, his pride humbled by their defeat, had sent an envoy to the table for the first time, hoping to negotiate terms. The Grethar, now fully committed to humanity's cause, were prepared to offer whatever was needed to secure a future free of the corruption that had plagued the Federation. The Druxians, too, stood ready to defend the fragile peace they had helped create. Ilara knew that this was the critical moment. The aftermath of the battle was as important as the victory itself. They had to rebuild trust, create a new order from the ashes of the old Federation. Humanity, once seen as the galaxy's greatest threat, had now become the hope for its survival. If they were to unite the galaxy once more, it was not through domination, but through collaboration. A new galaxy, one founded on equality and respect, could emerge from the chaos, but only if humanity led with integrity and wisdom. "We have won this battle," Ilara began, her voice steady and resolute. "But the war is not over. The factions that betrayed us are still out there, waiting for their moment. We will need every ally, every piece of technology, every resource to prevent the galaxy from falling into further chaos." Arcanus, his face etched with lines of regret, nodded slowly. "I was blind," he said, his voice gravelly. "We Zygrins thought we could keep control, but humanity's resilience, it cannot be underestimated. I was wrong to believe that the galaxy could survive under our rule alone. You have proven otherwise." Ilara met his gaze, her expression unwavering. "The galaxy will survive if we stand together." The Federation was never meant to be one species' vision. It was meant to be a collective effort. We will rebuild it, but on a foundation of equality. Everyone, regardless of their race, deserves a voice. The other leaders in the room agreed, though the weight of the task ahead weighed heavily on them all. They were no longer just diplomats or military leaders. They were the architects of a new future. They would have to convince the galaxy's divided factions that this new order was the only way forward. The shadows of the past still loomed large, but they had humanity's example to guide them. A species that, against all odds, had risen from the ashes of betrayal. Humanity's first step was to initiate peace talks with the factions that had once turned against them. It would not be easy. The wounds of betrayal were still fresh, and there were those who saw humanity's rise as a threat to their power. But Ilara was determined. She knew that they could not afford to continue fighting. The galaxy was on the brink of destruction, and it was time to take the first steps toward healing. In the coming months, Ilara and her allies worked tirelessly to form a new council, one that would give every species a voice, a place in the galaxy's future. The rebuilding of the Federation would take time, and not everyone was ready to accept the changes. There would be challenges, divisions, and conflicts, but humanity had learned a valuable lesson in the crucible of war. Unity could only be forged through cooperation, and cooperation required trust. As the new council began to take shape, the first true peace talks began between humanity and its former enemies. The Grethar, with their raw strength, served as the first line of defense against any further betrayal. The Druxians, with their unparalleled understanding of warfare and strategy, helped rebuild a new military structure that would ensure the peace. The Varelli, with their vast technological expertise, began repairing the damage to the galactic infrastructure, their contributions critical to rebuilding communication and transportation networks that had been devastated during the war. For the first time in years, a sense of hope returned to the galaxy. Humanity had proven that even in the darkest of times, they could rise above their challenges. But the road to a lasting peace would be long and fraught with uncertainty. Ilara stood before the stars, the endless possibilities of the future stretching out before her. The war had been won, but the true victory lay in rebuilding a galaxy that had nearly torn itself apart. Humanity, against all odds, had shown the galaxy what it meant to fight for a better future, not with weapons and violence, but with unity, determination, and a relentless belief in the possibility of peace. And in that moment, Ilara knew that no matter what the future held, humanity's place in the galaxy was secure. The stars, once cold and distant, now seemed full of promise. The galaxy would never forget the resilience of the human spirit. The dawn of a new era had arrived.